Guide better with prompts. You've been getting proficient with Gemini now, but something seems off. You ask questions, get answers, and sometimes the responses are fine. However, fine isn't enough when you need professional quality results. The difference between okay and excellent responses? How you ask. The simple response problem. Imagine you're a consultant working on a client's marketing strategy. You need help drafting an email to the client about shifting priorities. You ask Gemini, write an email about changing our marketing focus from social media to email campaigns. Gemini responds, "Hi client, I wanted to reach out about our marketing strategy. We're thinking of moving away from social media and focusing more on email campaigns instead. This could help us reach our audience better. Let me know your thoughts. Best, your name." Not wrong, but it's bland, wishy, and sounds like it was written by a generic assistant, not a strategic consultant. What do you think is missing from this response? More polite language and professional formatting. Expertise level and understanding of why this change matters to the client. Specific details about social media performance metrics. The problem isn't Gemini's capability, it's that you didn't tell Gemini who it should be or what the audience needs to hear. Two elements fix this immediately: role and context. Why do you think defining these elements would improve the response? Context explains what the audience cares about and why this matters. Role tells Gemini what expertise level and vocabulary to use. They activate advanced Gemini features not available otherwise. They make the prompt longer, which in turn improves output quality and what's the key difference between how these three roles frame the same situation? Each role prioritized different aspects: business impact, technical details, or customer experience. The senior PM version was longer and more detailed than the others. Only the senior PM role avoided mentioning the technical problem. The more specific your role assignment, the better Gemini can match that expertise level. Compare these two. Act as a marketing expert. Act as a senior marketing strategist who specializes in B2B SaaS companies. The second gives Gemini much clearer framing, doesn't it? Next step. Role tells Gemini who it is. However, the good prompt should also include why this matters and what the audience needs. But what is it? To answer this question, imagine you're writing an email about a project delay. In the prompt that asks Gemini for help with writing, you add, "This is a long-term client who values transparency over speed." Why would you do that? How would the above addition to the prompt be helpful? It tells Gemini to prioritize honest explanation over minimizing the delay. It signals that the client has special VIP status requiring formal language. It makes the prompt longer, giving Gemini more information to work with. And context is needed in prompts because it answers questions like, who is the audience? Long-term client versus new prospect. What do they value? Transparency versus quick solutions versus cost savings. What's the relationship? Trusted partner versus skeptical stakeholder. What's at stake? Routine update versus crisis management. These details completely change how Gemini frames the message. Notice how the same role, senior consultant, communicated the same information completely differently based on audience context? Combining role and context. Role and context work together. Role sets expertise level. Context tailors that expertise to the specific situation. Let's rebuild that original marketing strategy email from the beginning of the lesson by using both elements. How did adding role and context improve this email compared to the original generic version? It avoided mentioning social media to prevent the client from questioning the decision. It was significantly longer and included more professional formatting. It framed the change strategically with data and connected to the client's specific priority. You've mastered role and context. You started this lesson getting generic, fine responses from Gemini. Now you can get targeted, professional outputs by telling Gemini who it should be and what the audience needs. These two elements, role and context, transform how Gemini thinks about your requests. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to use Gemini to handle large amounts of data, long reports, multiple documents, articles, without spending hours reading through everything. Work with large amounts of data. How often do you need to read long reports, compare multiple documents, or just read some articles for yourself but don't have enough time? That's exactly where Gemini steps in. Let's see how it handles the heavy reading for you. The information overload problem. Let's get back to the consultant example. And imagine you're preparing for a client meeting tomorrow. They've sent you a 47-page market analysis report and asked, "What are the key opportunities for our business?" You open the PDF. It's dense, charts, data tables, industry jargon, 12,000 words of analysis. You could spend 3 hours reading and taking notes manually, or you could ask Gemini to help. But there's still one problem that you need to solve. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge with processing large documents? Identifying what's actually important without reading everything in detail. The document is too long for AI tools to handle effectively. Converting PDF format into text that AI can understand. Here's the key insight. You don't ask Gemini to summarize everything. Instead, you ask Gemini to extract specific information using targeted questions and structured formats. The two techniques that will make this work are focused extraction and structured output. Why do you think these techniques would help you process large documents efficiently? Focused extraction tells Gemini exactly what information to find. Structured output organizes findings into usable formats like tables or bullets. They compress large documents into shorter files for easier handling. They make Gemini read the. Now that you understand what these techniques are, let's see how they work in practice. For this, you first need to input your document and write your prompt once the upload is confirmed. How did focused extraction, second prompt, improve the response compared to generic summarization, first prompt? It delivered only the information relevant to the specific question, not everything in the report. It allowed Gemini to read more carefully and avoid missing details. It was significantly shorter. Formatting the output. Returning to the opportunities Gemini extracted. They're helpful, but imagine you need to present this to your client in a meeting. A paragraph list isn't easy to discuss or compare. You need something visual and scannable. What would make these extracted insights more useful for a client presentation? Adding more detail and explanation to each point, making the language more formal and professional, organizing them into a structured. This is where structured output comes in. You tell Gemini not just what to extract, but how to format the findings, tables, charts, anything. How did adding structure improve these findings compared to the simple list from earlier? It made Gemini analyze the report more thoroughly and find better opportunities. It reduced the amount of information to only the most critical points. It organized opportunities by priority level for quick decision-making. Combining extraction plus structure for complex analysis. When you're working with really dense documents or multiple sources, you can layer extraction and structure for sophisticated analysis. What makes this multi-layered approach powerful for complex documents? It processes the document multiple times to ensure accuracy. It compresses 80 pages into the shortest possible summary. It extracts threats, categorizes them by urgency, and provides action guidance in one organized output. Extraction techniques summary. You're now familiar with techniques for processing large documents efficiently. Below are some tips about when to use different approaches. You've mastered document analysis. You started this lesson facing a 47-page report with no idea how to process it efficiently. Now, you can extract specific insights, structure them for decision-making, and even compare findings across multiple sources, all in minutes instead of hours. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to stop repeating the same tasks manually. Weekly reports, content pipelines, analysis routines, and turn them into efficient workflows with Gemini. Keep it up. Build multi-step workflows. Think about tasks you do repeatedly. Weekly reports, content creation pipelines, analysis routines. Doesn't doing them one by one every time waste your expertise? Well, in this lesson, you will learn to optimize these manual processes. The repetitive task problem. Imagine you're a content manager, creating weekly social media posts for your company. Every Monday, you follow the same process. Research trending topics, draft 3 post ideas, write captions, generate image concepts, review and finalize. You might do this with 5 separate Gemini conversations. First prompt: what are trending topics in industry this week? Second prompt: turn these into 3 post ideas. Third prompt: write captions for each idea. Fourth prompt: suggest images for these posts. Fifth prompt: review these for brand consistency. Reeve conversations. Constant copy pasting between them. Seems like not the most convenient way. What could be the biggest inefficiency with this approach? Gemini loses context between separate conversations. Each individual prompt isn't specific enough to get good results. You're manually connecting steps that could flow automatically in one workflow. As a matter of fact, there is a way to give Gemini the entire process once, and it will execute all 5 steps automatically whenever you need it. That's a multi-step workflow. Why would building workflows be more powerful than individual prompts? You define the process once and reuse it repeatedly. Workflows produce higher quality outputs than single prompts. Steps flow automatically without manual copy-pasting between prompts. Gemini maintains context across all steps in the workflow. Let's start simple, connecting 2 steps that naturally flow together. How did connecting these steps improve the workflow? Step 2 automatically uses Step 1 results without you manually copying information. Gemini wrote longer, more detailed post ideas in the 2-step format. The combined approach produced more trending topics than asking separately. Building complete workflows. 2-step workflows handle simple sequences, but the content creation process has 5 steps, not 2. To connect all of them, let's build the full weekly content workflow, all 5 steps connected automatically. What makes this 5-step workflow powerful for weekly content creation? Each step produces better quality because they're connected. You execute your entire creation process in one prompt instead of 5 separate conversations. The workflow automatically posts content to your social media accounts. Workflows for different tasks. Content creation is just one example. You can build workflows for any repeated process: analysis routines, report generation, research synthesis. Why could this workflow be valuable for weekly competitor monitoring? It searches the internet for competitor information you might have missed. It transforms scattered competitor information into an organized, actionable strategy automatically. It predicts what competitors will do next based on their past behavior. Same workflow structure, completely different purpose. Research, process, output works for content, analysis, reporting, research synthesis, any repeated task. Making workflows reusable. You've built workflows for content creation and competitor analysis, but how do you save and reuse them? Creating reusable workflow templates. Save the structure. Store your workflow prompt in a document with placeholder for variables. Define inputs. What changes each time you run it? Date range, topic, metrics. Run with new inputs. Replace placeholders with current information each week, a month. Refine over time. Adjust steps as your process evolves. Example. Your content workflow becomes a template where you only change trending topics domain and brand voice guidelines each week. Ready for workflow automation. You started this lesson doing repetitive tasks manually. 5 separate prompts for content creation, scattered competitor notes, and manual performance reviews. Now you can build automated workflows that execute your entire process in one prompt, consistently and repeatedly. In the next lesson, you'll see how AI can be a creative thinking partner, not just a task executor. Keep the momentum going. Solve creative challenges. Coming up with creative ideas that actually work is hard. Staring at a blank page, waiting for inspiration, wastes time. So, here you'll learn to generate, refine, and polish creative concepts systematically with Gemini. The creative block problem. Let's say you're launching a new product, an eco-friendly water bottle for outdoor enthusiasts. Your boss asks, "What's our campaign concept?" After 30 minutes, these are your ideas. Stay hydrated. Save the planet. The bottle that cares about Earth. Eco-friendly hydration for active lifestyles. They're not wrong, but they're forgettable. What's missing from these campaign ideas? A specific angle or unique perspective that differentiates this product. More professional marketing language and polish. Detailed information about product features and benefits. The insight is, creative work isn't about waiting for inspiration to strike randomly. It's about structured exploration, systematically generating options, then refining the strongest ones. 2 techniques unlock this: constrained brainstorming and iterative refinement. Why do you think these techniques help with creative challenges? They make Gemini generate more creative ideas than you could think of alone. They guarantee your campaigns will perform better than competitors. Iterative refinement helps you evolve good ideas into great ones through feedback. Constrained brainstorming gives direction instead of overwhelming open-ended prompts. Now that you're familiar with these techniques, let's start with constrained brainstorming. How did adding constraints improve brainstorming compared to the first attempt? Specifying the target audience automatically generated better creative ideas. Constraints pushed Gemini past generic messaging into specific, distinctive angles. The longer, more detailed prompt provided more information for Gemini. Refining creative concepts. Constrained brainstorming gave you 3 solid concepts, and you liked the refill rebellion one. But it's still rough, more like directions than polished campaigns. What should be your next step after choosing a concept direction? Develop it into a complete campaign with messaging, visuals, and execution details. And test it with focus groups before investing more time. Start over. And how did developing the concept add value beyond the initial brainstorming? It proved the concept would work by testing different variations. It made the concept more creative and distinctive than the original idea. It transformed a creative direction into specific executable campaign elements. But development doesn't stop here. You might need specific assets, social posts, ad copy, and visual descriptions for designers. See the progression? Concept, campaign brief, specific assets. You started with a vague, eco-friendly bottle, and now have executable social content, visual direction, and messaging, all systematically developed. Refining through feedback. Even great creative benefits from iteration. However, you won't always be able to see where the AI-generated campaign efforts could be generated. You have campaign assets, but can't always see where they might fall short. How can you identify weaknesses? Run A/B tests with real audiences before making any changes. Ask Gemini to critique the work from a specific audience perspective. Compare your assets to competitors' successful campaigns. See how the critique revealed blind spots? You can also ask Gemini to critique from other perspectives. Critique is a brand manager concerned about alienating mainstream customers. Critique is a Gen Z consumer who values authenticity over marketing speak. Critique is a copywriter focused on clarity and action. Different perspectives reveal different weaknesses. Creative development mastered. Good job. You can now systematically generate distinctive concepts, develop them into complete campaigns, and create specific assets, all through structured creative exploration with Gemini. In the final lesson, you'll learn how to connect Gemini with your everyday tools, Google Docs, Sheets, Gmail, to automate business tasks and workflows. Let's finish strong. Automate business tasks. Think about how much time you spend on routine work each week. Writing reports, creating documents, analyzing data, organizing information. This is the final lesson, and here you'll learn to automate these repetitive tasks by connecting Gemini directly to your Google Workspace tools. The daily task repetition problem. Writing meeting summaries, creating status reports, drafting SOPs, formatting data from sheets, sending follow-up emails, and organizing information from multiple documents. All of this probably takes a lot of your time, and you probably do it manually. What's the biggest inefficiency with handling these tasks this way? Manual work introduces too many errors and inconsistencies. You're spending time on repetitive work instead of high-value strategic thinking. It takes too long to train new team members on these processes. Here's the opportunity. Gemini can access and work with your Google Workspace tools, Docs, Sheets, Gmail, Drive. So instead of asking Gemini questions in isolation, you can ask it to create, analyze, and organize information directly in your working documents. Two capabilities unlock this: workspace integration and document automation. Connecting Gemini to Google Workspace. Before Gemini can work with your workspace tools, you need to enable the integration. This gives Gemini permission to access your Docs, Sheets, Drive, and Gmail when you request it. Enabling workspace integration. Open Gemini settings, gear icon in top right. Navigate to Connected Apps and then to Google Workspace. Toggle on the tools you want Gemini to access: Docs, Sheets, Drive, Gmail. Grant permissions when prompted. Once enabled, Gemini can reference and work with your workspace files directly. With integration enabled, you can open any Google Workspace tool and ask Gemini to create new docs with specific content and formatting, analyze data from sheets and generate insights, search Drive for relevant files and summarize them, draft emails based on context from documents. Let's start with document creation, the most immediately useful capability. Structure, sections, formatting, all created in seconds. Now you just populate it with your specific team data. Here's what the created document looks like in Google Docs. How does this improve your workflow compared to creating documents manually? It saves the document automatically, so you don't risk losing work. The AI-generated document is higher quality than what you'd create manually. Gemini builds the structure and formatting instantly. You just fill in specific details. Analyzing data and creating reports. The real magic happens when Gemini analyzes information from your existing files and creates new documents based on that data. For example, imagine you track weekly metrics in a Google Sheet. Every Friday, you manually review the data, identify trends, and write a summary for your team. Gemini can do this automatically by reading your sheet and generating the report. To do so, navigate to the Gemini icon on your respective Google Sheet page and input the prompt. What makes this capability valuable for regular business reporting? Gemini's analysis is more accurate than the manual review of spreadsheet data. It transforms data analysis and report writing from a manual task into an automated workflow. It creates better-looking reports with professional formatting and charts. Yeah. Let's see this in action with a common business workflow, creating SOPs from scattered information. This is powerful for knowledge management. Information spreads across documents over time. Onboarding processes, project procedures, best practices. Gemini finds scattered pieces, reviews them, and consolidates them into one comprehensive, organized document you can actually use. Building reusable automations. You've seen one-time document creation and data analysis. Now, let's build repeatable automations for tasks you do weekly or monthly. What should you include when creating a reusable automation prompt for recurring tasks? Include the exact dates and specific data values for each run. Identify the repetitive task you want to automate. Specify the output format and document structure. Define which data sources the automation will use. See how the template works? The structure is fixed. Every Monday, access sheet X, analyze Y, create doc Z with sections AE. Only date changes weekly. You build once, reuse forever. That's the power of template-based automation. Common business automations. Now that you know how to create them, let's look at some tips for automation workflows that you can build immediately for your business. High-impact automations. Weekly reporting, sheet data, doc summary, metrics, trends, actions. Meeting. Business automation achieved. You started this lesson spending hours on repetitive tasks, manual data analysis, document formatting, and copy-pasting between tools. Now, you can automate recurring workflows, create documents instantly, and analyze data across multiple sources, all while working directly in the tools you use every day. With that, you've completed the full Gemini course. Excellent job. You've learned to guide AI strategically, analyze documents, build workflows, generate creative concepts, and automate business tasks. Now, the question is not what Gemini can do, it's what you'll build with it. Start automating, keep building, transform how you work.